You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
A comedian posing as Antifa infiltrates Portland City Council meeting. Let me just read you the quote, because we're going to start off with this quote. "The cleanest methamphetamines that I've ever done, but the problem is all these dope users out there, a lot of them aren't vaccinated." This is a funny one. So a comedian got on one of these online council meetings, and they were talking about, City of Portland was talking about passport vaccines. And he just takes his allotted time and goes on a rampage and just kind of points out everything that the city council and Mayor Ted allowed to have happen. Pretty funny. At the end, well, we're going to talk about it. Why are we talking about this on the Seattle Real Estate Podcast? Well, because Portland has a lot of issues that are similar to Seattle, with some city leadership and some city council members. And Portland's got a commissioner that is so out of touch with reality that it's crazy. We need to cover this because it's funny, and it points out so much of what I, as a reasonable person, kind of look at and go, yep, you don't really want to allow that in your city, because here's what's gonna happen. This comedian points it all out. It's pretty funny. Before we jump on in, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies. I read the news from that perspective. Today, we're a little bit outside of the real estate realm, but it's good stuff. So let's jump on in. Let's just see what we've got. And thank you to the individual who sent this to me. It's very funny. This is on Post Millennial, and the article was written by Katie Daviscourt. Read a number of her things before. And the video was posted by Mr. Andy No. If you want to watch the video of this comedian who got in on the city council meeting in Portland, go to @Mr. Andy No. He's an author that I've talked about. I've read his book, and he's got good things to say. He took a real beat down from Antifa. So he's one of those guys on the front line, kind of reporting things as they are. And if you want to go and watch the full 3.5-minute video, it's worth the look if you want to. So a comedian attended a virtual Portland City Council meeting on Wednesday and hilariously mocked the city's failed progressive policies during public comment. It is entertainment. If you want to spend 3.5 mindless minutes of watching is he probably late 20s or early 30s, somewhere in there. And he reminds me of Rob Dyrdek from Rob and Big off of MTV. Why do I know this? Because I raised boys and we watched a lot of Rob and Big. And, he's the skateboarder. He has a big black dude sidekick, and the skateboarder guy's really small. Rob's really big. Funny show. But this comedian, he reminds me a lot of Rob, and I like Rob. So this was an entertaining watch, entertaining 3.5 minutes of my research during my work day as I'm preparing this for you. So clad in black while wearing a blue surgical face mask, comedian Alex Stein thanked Portland City Council for enabling drug use and forcing police officers to stand down while Antifa militants destroyed the city. He spoke from his car with his dog. His car, an El Camino. Kind of reminds me of Breaking Bad, that whole Jesse thing, right? Got an El Camino. Is it half car? Is it half truck? Is it built on a car chassis? That whole El Camino thing back in the day was so confusing. Yet people love their El Caminos, right? Providing public comment on Portland's proposal to require vaccine passports. Are they really going to go there? Aren't we kind of past this? Probably wherever you are, you don't have the same level of nonsense that I do here in the state of Washington. We're just kind of waiting any day now. All right, when's the mask mandate going to go away? When's this whole charade of, if you're walking into a restaurant, you might get the Rona, so wear a mask, but the minute you sit down at your table, all is good. We don't worry about it. When are we going to stop this whole charade? Yeah, I don't know. But meanwhile, Portland's getting trolled during a meeting talking about requiring vaccine passports. Stein introduced himself as a member of Antifa and commended City Council for their support of radical left extremists. So funny. Yo, I just want to say that I'm a member of Antifa, and listen, I was in Texas. I had a wife. She worked at a bank. She worked for 11 years and I had 2 kids. She got all radicalized and became a Trump supporter. So I took the dog, I took the car, and I drove straight to Los Angeles, Stein said. I'll be honest with you. LA was terrible. It was a nightmare. And then I met some guy. We rode some trains and went up to Portland. This is the best place, said Stein. The cleanest methamphetamines that you have ever done. But the problem is all these dope users out there, a lot of them, they're not vaccinated. That's kind of your first clue that you're like, oh, okay. If I didn't know this, I would say, all right, he's trolling. This is a vaccine passport. And he's like really getting in there and just kind of making fun. I'm surprised they didn't try and cut him off, but it was clear that they're going to give, their rules are that everybody gets the full 3.5 minutes say, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. And so this guy just, he kind of cut loose. Stein spoke at length about how clean the drugs were in Portland and how there are essentially no rules and that people can do as they please. He praised the policy of allowing people to take their dogs into movie theaters, saying that can't happen in Texas. They've got all these rules. Can't you just hear that from some kid? This kid did not have a wife who worked for him. He didn't have, no. But those were good. It was a good story. It was good setup. And you almost believed him. But the whole hoodie and then talking about all the drugs, but his face is pretty clear. I'm reasonable. I'm like, okay, son, you're pulling our leg. But you know what? I'm still going to do a podcast on it because it's funny. So I'm a triple vaccinated, and I'm telling you, in this El Camino, I've been parked here on the street, living out of it for 3 weeks. Nobody has said anything at all. That's funny. That is funny. He praised Antifa. He praised the Antifa efforts to destroy public federal property for over 100 nights of rioting in the summer of 2020, saying, "What happened at that federal building?" ? It was sweet. Y'all were so chill about it because a lot of my boys were the ones starting those fires. And I know some of my family friends that went down to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. They're now going to be in jail forever. Forever. He's just making fun of the comparison. He's just saying, hey, you guys were great. And that's what I went down to Portland, was literally when they're trying to hammer on the federal buildings. And we had alleged federal officers in unmarked cars and not in uniforms, just, plucking people off the sidewalk and taking them to unknown locations in said unknown vans. That's when I went down. I'm like, yeah, not really. That's not really what's happening. But if you want to believe that narrative, you can believe it. And, you're probably not going to believe the narrative that, well, the people up in the big, tall federal building, they've got cameras and they've got people with binoculars and they're kind of following the people that are doing all the damage to the federal buildings. And every now and then they'll go out of the building and they'll round some of them up for questioning, as you do when you try and destroy federal property. That was the real explanation I got from a police officer on the steps of the jailhouse. I walked up to him. It was one of the first things I did after checking into my hotel. Kind of went to scope out the area because I knew we were going to have a little direct action protest later that night. Direct action. We're doing stuff. We're getting stuff done because nothing says progress like tearing apart, public statues and destroying public restrooms and graffitiing up the area and shooting a paintball gun up at, security camera. Nothing says progress like that. I mean, that just really supports everybody's rights in life to everything, doesn't it? So he spoke about, this comedian again, he spoke about how tight it was that Wheeler won't let rioters go to jail. "Thank you for hooking us up, Ted Wheeler," he said. The comedian ended the duration of his time by thanking Mayor Wheeler for being the #1 chillest mayor. Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty said at the end, "We're over time, so we can cut him off now," said, and Stein's time was ended. Mayor Wheeler ends the whole thing with, "I'll take that in the spirit in which it was offered, which was complete sarcasm," Wheeler said. Okay, well, there was sarcasm, but there was a lot of truth to it, wasn't there? That's the painful part. is if you watch this guy and for the full 3.5 minutes, you're like, that is really, really funny. And yet at the same time, really, really sad that the way that he on a comedian level described this was so accurate that this is what's happening in a major city in the United States. And that happened in summer of 2020. And that's why I went down there. I mean, it's just sad. It's sad to let it get to that point, right? And even Mayor Wheeler got to a point at the end of these peaceful protests by Antifa and whatever small little groups of Black Lives Matter were left. I think even Black Lives Matter got to the point where they're like, yeah, this isn't really helping anything. So we're going to step back just a notch here and we're not going to have so many of these protests because Antifa's kind of taking this over and it's not looking good. But Rose City Antifa down in Portland, they're strong. Got to be honest. I stopped a live stream because I was like, geez, this is not looking good. This is kind of dangerous. And I'm not one of those guys that, you know, I'm willing to walk into situations that I probably shouldn't, judging my safety factor. Some might say that it's, you know, my safety factor is, it should be higher, but you know, I'm still here, right? I'm still podcasting. So I went down there, but I started up a live stream and I was looking around and I just got spooked because the group of people that they had there, yeah, they did have the soccer moms there during this. Do you remember that? Do you remember this? A bunch of moms that I think were literally members of Antifa. They tried to dress them up, even though they're all tatted up and whatnot. They tried to dress them up like they were soccer moms and have them go to the front. Like, hey, even soccer moms believe in this. And you're like, this is so far beyond reality because no soccer mom that I know of would approve of tearing down a recently built security fence around the perimeter of a federal building. And then, you know, as a group, we tear down the security fence. We start a bunch of fires. We have our ambulance sitting in back because we know that whatever is going to hit the fan, we're going to get tear gassed. Yep, we did get tear gassed. All this stuff that he says is 100% true. That's the crazy part. And he's trolling them. And Mayor Ted has to know this is true. Joanne Hardesty has to know on some level, you know what? We don't agree with his opinion, but wow. Yeah, he kind of just laid it all out there, especially the rule following part. Yeah, they've got all these rules. Can't you just see somebody saying that? All these rules. We're Antifa, anti-fascist. Rules? No, hell no. We don't want rules. So come to Portland. You got clean drugs, but you know, the guys aren't vaccinated. So his whole pitch was, yeah, you know, you got all this great stuff that's great for my lifestyle, but you know, and he said he was triple vaxxed. Like, okay, really? You're triple vaxxed? Okay, I would have believed you if you were double vaxxed with the booster. You know, let's get it right. If you're going to go down that road, you got to get that terminology right. So, but no, he was triple vaxxed, and you know, it's just one of those funny things. I'm glad he did that. I'm glad it got caught. It's on the live stream, and then Andy No posted it. I mean, this whole thing has been just so ridiculous. The way Portland responded to this was absolutely ridiculous. And the leadership in Portland that allowed this to happen, by the time this was kind of getting over, even the leadership, even Mayor Ted was like, yeah, I can't really condone this behavior anymore. Yeah, it was so bad. It was so out of hand that even Mayor Ted, like, all right, we got to take a hard stand here. You know, at the beginning, the city council was down there with these protesters. And, you know, they were all kumbaya, you know, things were great. And then as the nights kept going on, and President Trump offered to send some federal troops in to clear house, which a lot of people said, yeah, why don't we? And I was kind of the thinking, and I said it about CHOP as well. You know what? I don't think this is a long-term thing here. So let's not make it even worse by dumping a bunch of gasoline on it. But I get the whole thought pattern of just send the feds in, because that's what I always think of. And I know the generation older than me it was definitely like, you got that stuff happening to a federal building, send the feds in, send some Fed troops in, just clear these people out. Because we saw in July of 1, we saw how quickly, if a city and police entity are given the approval, how quickly they can overrun one of these autonomous zones, right? I mean, I got there late to the show on July 1st over at CHOP. I got there late at like 6:30. I've been following a couple of feeds. We didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, but I got over there at 6:30 because I'd been watching since like 5 and nothing was going on. And my girlfriend said, hey, you need to come see this. And I did. And I was like, holy crap. And so my day kind of got rocked because I was getting ready to go to work and like, okay, I got to go over there. And so they cleared, they cleared out CHOP. They cleared out Antifa. They cleared out whatever Black Lives Matter was left and just did a sweep. They cleared out all the tents. They cleared out all the crap. They brought in, Department of Transportation to basically do an entire sweep of the area. And then they started the cleanup process and I went back and covered that. And so, this stuff can be shut down in a heartbeat, like overnight, if the powers that be want to. But Mayor Ted let it go for a long time to the point where he was like, oh yeah, this isn't so good. Maybe we need to do something differently. So now you've got a comedian calling him the #1 chillest mayor. And, and Mayor Ted was like, I'll take that in the spirit in which it was offered, which was complete sarcasm. Who let that guy on? Well, he said he was Antifa, and Antifa always really likes us. Nobody said that, but in their minds, they're like, oh man, we just got trolled by a fake Antifa member. So yeah, super funny. So if you want to check that out, Mr. Andy No, that's about all I got in this one, but it's entertaining if nothing else. But what's sad is that it is so entertaining because it's true. All right. That's all I got for right now. We'll catch up soon. Till then, stay safe. We'll talk again. Bye for now.